Hey everyone, welcome back to our Chinatown Soup Tea Club. Now is May and we're going into the harvesting seasons. Um, the first pick usually is the beginning or mid of March, and they just finish up picking most of the trees um, in the south, from Fujian all the way down to Yunnan. So we'll see what we're gonna have this year. And since this year is a little bit warmer, so we'll see how that affects our tea trees. So welcome back to our episode. Today I'm gonna start slower and more chilled because we are doing a white tea. At the last episode, we try a Jingmai Mountain red tea. Basically, those are the leaves that they will make it into pour. But then this particular harvest, they decide to make it into a red. So this time we're going to try the white versions. So it's the same leaf as the red that you had, but you can see the white productions. You can see how loose these leaves are because white tea is the less processed method of making tea. So they basically just pick it and sun dried it. So it's going to be much, much more different than the oxidized red tea per se. So hopefully you have some fun to it. I have some of the remaining of the batch, and you can see they are mostly loose and broken pieces, which I usually love because this will actually extract the liqueur from the tea much faster. And you can actually, be more relaxed about it than the big leaf because sometimes the big leaf is hard to brew. It reflects the water back out because it's expand. But the loose leaf, you can rotate a lot of different way of brewing it in the method. So today I'm going to introduce you to a mindset of how to brew the tea. I just recently learned, and it's a confirmations of giving intentions of the medicine. So what is that supposed to mean? I think humans been doing it scientifically of extracting particular, I would say, elements or molecules or chemicals that actually think that is beneficial to us. Just like in cannabis, we extract THC or CBD. But a lot of times when we extract just that, it doesn't really represent the whole of the medicine. And a lot of times people would say, if I have some of the THC, I need to add back the CBD into it to make it work better. So if we have a thought about that, then we can actually use that to our tea brewing. If we want to make a medicine out of it, which, that's the whole point for me of turning this into a medicine, which is what it's supposed to be. So when we're doing that, we are not just trying to use our scientific logic like, boil it, extract whatever. But rather than that, have a communications to it, which I always taught people about communicating with the leaf. And if we have that mentality of it, we can really slow down and focus on what do we want to do or how do we listen. And that's the biggest part of it, listening. And if you don't look into your gaiwan when you're brewing it, you can't listen. All right. So I always kind of really surprised when tea sommelier brew tea, they never look into it. They just count by the beeper and stuff like that. But when I look into this tea leaf right now, you can see a lot of, broken pieces. Is fine. For me, it's actually even better because it's helped me focus on how to brew it even better. So if you smell it, you will first smell almost like a white tea that you're familiar with is white peonies. It'll give you a dry roses or dry peonies, flowery floralness to it. But of course, because these are older plants, these are from Jingmai. Again, it's one of the oldest, I would say, tea garden in the Yunnan province that they've been, growing tea and cultivating tea for thousands of years. So you will actually have much more of a savory notes into it. People will call it terroir. People will call it, because it's from an ecology environments which have other trees that grows with it, and other plants and other animals, and of course insects to it. So when I look at this, I look into the color of it, and you can see it's already pot on one side. You smell it. There's still a lot of flavor coming out from it. So I know that I have a long way to go, but that's not the problem. I mean, the only thing about a tea journey is the journey, right? So we really had to savor what is that journey of today. And, I'm feeling very anxious this kind of period of time. We got a lot going on in the world. We have, the business is different. So there's a lot of thoughts when we're really sitting down to yourself and drinking a cup of tea, and that will melt over. I hope that was the medicine, is to give you back the internal peace, right? So you can see this is a 2009 white Jingmai Mountain wild grown pour white tea, processed in a white processing form, and you can see how dark it is. So initially, when you think about this, then you know that it's not cooling, it's warming. And you can kind of appreciate the oil. We smell the lid, we look into the broken leaf, and now let's this tea speak for itself. So let's have a slurp. The first initial feeling is how the water hit your mouth. It's almost like you have all this bottle of water nowadays that, this have plastic, microplastic, this is, whatever, like Peregrino, Evian, and all this kind of things that, you drink it, you know that you're drinking from a plastic bottle already, so your body already shut down a little bit of it to protect it. But when you first have the initial taste of the tea, feel how light or heavy or full of mineral, or how fresh, how alive, or how dead it is, okay? That's the first initial that you should be feeling of it. The second slurping of it, you can then feel that it starts to tingle. The tingling is a sensation, is basically, if you pick up a spinach, you chew it, you feel the minerosity of it. You pick up a mint, you chew it, you have the minty sensation. Is how that plant's supposed to activate you or give you the sensations of it. So I'm full of savory umami right now on this brew. It's warming because the color is brown or reddish brown. So it's in the more warming side of the spectrum. It's not like a green tea, or a white peonies will be basically light yellow, right? If you understand that. So our second brew of the tea. Smelling the lid, important to see how your extraction is coming out. The brew comparing to my first, you see it's already much darker in color. And let's see how it goes down to your throat. I like white tea per se is because it's the least processed, it's the least of the intentions of the person that making the tea have injected into it. It's more about the tea than the craftsman. Of course, you still need to make it proper, that it doesn't mold or anything like that, of course. But when we have this, you can really feel where it came from. So if we put into a mindful of like drinking this, and you can kind of see how tall is the tree, how high is the elevation and environments. We know that this is from 800 meters and above. How old is the tree? Is there a lot of wetness in that area? Is there a lot of dryness in that area? Is it a really big jungle? Is it a dense forest? Is this all this kind of thing that you can kind of ask the tree or the tea that you're making? It's just having a dialogue. It's just like chatting with a friend, but instead you're chatting with the tea, and you can just kind of talk about it with it in your mind. And when you do that, it tends to slow you down. It tends to help you to be in the moment of drinking this tea, which is interesting, because then that's where I think the medicine is to help you go back to nature. Your nature, I learned a little kind of a mantra from Michelle, my partner from Chinatown Soup. The first mantra is, through the fire, my nature restore. And that's have to go through fire, meaning that if you burn the candles or you have built a fire, you feel it, you can feel cleansing. And then once you get cleansed, then your nature restore. We can do that with tea because we're using water as 5 elements. We're using the fire on the electricity to boil the water. We're putting the water into the tea leaf, the water into the earth or the wood, and then we slurp it. We have the air elements into this, and then we have the spirit of the human and the earth into it. So it's all complete. Every time you brew tea and you drink it, is the 5 elements already exist. So when the 5 elements exist in the same time, then you're not lacking, but you are full in a way. So you can basically go back to your nature. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because if you look into the leaf itself, it's almost like you go to your backyard and on a fall that you have all this leaf falling down to it. It's a cycle of life, but then it's all here. So to compare it, this is my 3rd brew, which is the marriage of aroma and the body, compared to our first one. Okay, it's much more shinier this time because I'm really extracting the oil out. So let's see how it goes. Great, it relaxes me. I can feel the heat going down into the stomach. It gives you what we call huijin, which is a return flavor to the tea, which is something that I always love. It's not just about bitterness or astringency. It's about what the meaning of those things after you ingest it. After the bitterness change, what is it going to be? So those are the things that you can find out. And once you start to lean into that area, then you can really be relaxed and focus in the moment. And going to my 4th brew, and you can see they are much more tame in a way. Seems like, you're seeing first meeting a horse. You don't know how big this animal is, and this is like, can I ride it or not? But if you really respect it and pay attention to it, you will have a wonderful time with it. So I always treat it like something that is alive and with spirits, okay? And that's very important when we do this. So bringing it back into that nature of not trying to extract a particular thing, and we all want to have control, is the complete different way of what I'm trying to do as when I'm brewing. I'm not trying to particular, if there's a grandma face powder elements in it that I really love, I'm not really just focusing on getting that out, because then what? If you do that, there will be something else that, oh, then I want my aloes wood coming out. Oh, then I want my hamon, the meaty part of it, coming out. It's endless. Those things is endless, and it's just going to distract you. So why don't we just let the tea, with good intentions when we brew it, and brew it out like this. You can see how much more darker this is on our fourth, which is, I call the truth, which is the true taste of the plant, to see what the message is, and just enjoy the dialogue with it. Even though it's casual, it's still a practice. So the way you pour water, the way you execute this whole journey is all very mindful of it. The way I'm pouring water in it, I'm not being aggressive to it. I'm not particularly doing something that is, amplifies something. I just want whatever that moment of the tea is to come out. Of course, there's a lot of history behind it. The 7 bowls of tea, for example, I would think that will relate to our 7 chakra. And each one have its own purpose. And how do we have surprises based on that purpose is the joy that we're brewing with the tea. Let's see how this goes. It'll be fun for you. If you still have a little bit of the previous red, then you can compare how this is different once we have the oxidations to turn it into the red. Of course, there will be fermentations to it, but it's focusing on the oxidations when you're making the red tea. And this is the white. And it would naturally ferment because there's still the environments, even though it's in the back, it's still actually activating and there's microbiomes in it that is actually fermenting it in a very, very slow and, a macro scope of that fermentation is still happening. That means that the tea is not dead. All right, we're going into our last brew here. And it's still very much going, okay? You smell it, you look at it, you see how they're extracting and how the representations of that extractions became the color of the brew and the taste of it and how you make you feel on it. I hope you enjoy these sections, to slow down, to not just be very particular and technical and scientific, but in a very indigenous way of seeing it as a medicine that is what the medicine is supposed to provide you with in that particular moment. I hope you enjoy, and give us comments if you have any questions of brewing this tea. It will be probably the largest size tea that you will receive on leaf size wise, because it's huge, right? So sometimes you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? It's okay, it's just tea. So pour some hot water in it and enjoy.